Classic Accessories Colorado Pontoon Boat Modifications. So I've seen a bunch on YouTube and did a bunch of tweaks and mods myself to this and wanted to show them off. So one of my goals is to not permanently change or modify the frame or anything like that. I wanted stuff to be reversible because I always end up having better ideas, and if I drill a hole into something or permanently alter something, then it's kind of ruined from that point going forward. So, but here's the modifications that I've made, and a lot of them I've got from YouTube. Some of them I tweaked a little bit further, and I love them. So let's start over here. So got an oar leash. This was just some extra paracord and a buckle that I had. Had a buddy lose an oar, so added that. But one of the first things is this saddle for the oar. So it keeps the oar up out of the water and out of the way, so it's not dangling around. But you'll notice I trimmed off this leading edge because it's not really needed to hold the oar. Right there, see? And having this out of the way, it doesn't take, you don't have to lift the oar as high to get it up and over. And seconds count when you're trying to get the oars up out of the way. Second thing you can see right here is the original rod holder right here. I used an existing hole that was here, the Velcro that was on the rod holder, and put a bolt there, Velcro there, just add an extra piece, don't really need that. And then I widened this so that you don't have to come in from the top like originally, but this way you can just come in quickly, put it there. And the nice thing about that rod holder in that position is the oar can still move and be used even though you've got that rod there. So that's the rod that I am fishing with. And after I've netted the fish, need to get the rod out of the way, or if I need to put the rod away really quick so I can start using the oars as I'm going down river, I've got a place that it's up out of the way and not bugging anything. Over here on the oar locks, I replaced the cotter pin with a carabiner, and this allows me to attach additional accessories. I've got my forceps here, and I've got a magnet strip on the back that I can keep those on real quick. While we're here, I'm getting a fish finder for Christmas. This is an existing hole. This is a riser irrigation pipe that I used my heat gun on and got it warm and then held it here to help form it to the frame. And what that does is help lock it in. And then you can also see that I gave a slight bend here as well. And what that does is help it hug up against the inner tube and then help sort of lock it down when we're in the water. Additionally, while we're here, so registration has to be on when you put a trolling motor on in many states, but I'm using the corrugated plastic that people use for their yard sale signs, and there's a dash in my number, and what I did was I put Velcro straps through at those dashes. So the Velcro strap is actually the dash, and it is the Velcro. So, and the other one is back behind here, the expiration date, but I'll just be putting new stickers on that over and over. But this way I can, when I'm going on a river and don't have my motor, I can pop these off and keep going. So these are milk crates that I got from the back to school section, home office section at Walmart. I originally had them zip tied onto here, and the inflator valve is right there. So these are bungeed together. I can cinch them up when I'm using them. I'm debating on whether to use this or not underneath to have this be what mounts it onto the frame instead of the zip tie. That way I can move it if I need to. Again, not trying to be permanent on things. Right here I added a magnet bar that you can just quickly throw some flies or lures on. Just put Gorilla Tape over it, blends right in, non-obtrusive, and real quick and easy to just throw some lures or flies when I'm changing out. Okay, moving back. I added some, this is the milk crate again. This has been done time and time again, where you take the bottom of one to make it the lid of the other and you zip tie them together. I added a cup holder there. This can move around as needed. This is a mat from Walmart. It's like $4 or $5, something cheap. That way stuff doesn't fall through the big basket. Added some rod holders here. These are not my trolling rod holder solutions, because as you can see, the rod would cut into the basket, but also it's behind the seat. And I wanted something, these are just more for holding rods that I'm not using, and they're out of the way back behind me. But what I used was black cutting board. You can use any color cutting board, and then put a O-ring here, or a washer here to hug the frame, and then added an extra piece here that comes over the frame. That way it's sandwiched onto the frame and doesn't move. I've got on both sides rod holders, and I'm probably going to take these off, a little too many. Okay, moving on. This is a framing strap in the framing section for when they're building houses, and it's usually like a foot long. I cut it off, bent it under, and this is one of the original transom bolts and holes. And this way I raise the anchor up out of the water, because when I'm got my trolling motor, it drags in the water. I don't know if it affected much, but I just wanted it up out of the way. And then I used some funny pipe. It's what it's called. Zip tied to the bottom of the basket. I'm not a fan of how this looks, but this stops the anchor from swinging and banging into stuff. Had that happen, and just wasn't a fan of hearing and seeing the impact that could have. On to the transom. The original transom has the motor offset. I didn't like that, and I wanted it as low as possible. So I can go lower. I can flip this board over and have this mount directly, just rest directly on the frame, but it eats into this area here. And I opted just to have it a little bit higher, so the screws are resting on the frame. And this is a 2x4 painted black. I'm not excited about the wood, looking for other alternatives, but it's there. Now, of course, you see the tried and true steering mechanism on here. I've done a few little tweaks and mods. So I use this bracket. It comes from like chain link fence paneling. It's for, connecting two panels together. I used it on here and took the motor control off, added extra wire, as you can see. This is, again, irrigation PVC piping. Notice that the line is coming out almost in parallel with the shaft. I found that was super important, because if the rope came back here, when you were hard over and the rope was connected here, it could not recover. It could not come back out of this turn. But having that little bend forward, even if it's all the way over, it'll still recover and turn. Now, some people say you're supposed to use bungee cord here. I prefer the paracord. I tried bungee. You'd turn about halfway, and then the bungee would spring and cut all the way over. With the paracord, I found that, there's enough tension in it, and it is able to give you the fine-tune steering without having to worry about the bungee cord springing over. And this is about 5 inches. I found the shorter this is, because I did have it a little bit longer at first, 5 inches on each side. But the shorter means smaller pivots in your seat result in bigger steering on the motor, right? So I like this a little bit shorter like that, 5 inches. Moving over. Oh, seat. Almost forgot about this. Most people have a hook or a carabiner here. This is obviously an aftermarket seat that I got off Amazon. I added these brackets that I found in my garage, bent it out so I could get a carabiner in here. This is a quick link, and put that on. And I did originally have the line just tied off here, but I found that you couldn't turn all the way because you're locked in, and I couldn't access the basket back here and get to stuff that I needed. So I wanted to figure out a way that I could solve that. And the way I did that was these Clam cleats. This is the heavy duty double-sided sticky tape just on there that holds it in place. You can pop that out, and then you can turn your seat a lot more to get to the stuff in the back. They're on both sides, so you can get to what you need. And then I added these toggles. They're more of a measurement, so I know where to put the rope back in. So once you get your motor and your seat all positioned, you then know exactly where it needs to go. You can also use this. The other day it was windy and I needed to trim the motor just a little bit one direction, and so I was able to cinch this up some and modify the direction that I was going, just using the ropes here on the side. And I love that they're quick disconnect and then able to reconnect, and then you're back into steering mode. Super reliable. I love that. Moving over, battery box. So they have those smart battery boxes, but they're a lot bigger and they don't fit while keeping the motor here in the middle. It's not a big deal, but I just wanted it in the middle for steering and symmetry, all that fun stuff, right? So bought this box. It's a group 24. Cut a hole, added a battery monitor. I've got the mini 100 milliamp lithium battery, 50 amp breaker. This acts as my on and off switch for the whole system. And there you can see battery meter. I swapped out the ends for plugs, so my motor, I can just plug stuff in. My fish finder, plug stuff in, and call it good. And tuck everything up, run the wires all up inside, and don't have to worry about it. Moving over, got 2 more rod holders. And then, so back on the trolling motor, there's lots of videos out there of people swapping out to some sort of Tupperware with a knob, and I just was not a fan of that. I liked and wanted to keep the original motor control because it's got it also has a battery meter on it. Plus I just like the ease of having this right next to me in the seat. And so how do I mount it there? Well, I found these. They are camera mounts. They're in the photography system, or not, the photography market rather, where they use these to hold up poles and lights and lamps and umbrellas and all sorts of stuff. And they're really thick, high density material, and metal bolts. You can crank these suckers down tight. And so that's what I put and have this in here. And I can quickly disconnect, pop this out, and I just put a PVC pipe in there and can mount it right into that, crank it down, and call it good. So I now have the controls right next to me. It's out of the way. I originally was playing with some ideas of using this rod holder for it, but I like this double clamp a lot better. These are on Amazon, 15 bucks. Okay, over here, again, got the carabiner so I can put attachments on. And talk about the oar in just a sec. This is a leash that I made out of an old charging cable for the car. Used some shrink tube on the end, threw a carabiner on it, shrink tube on this end, and put a Velcro strap. And now I've got my net tethered to the boat. Okay, coming over here, so we got the same oar saddle. On the oar saddles, I'm using toilet bolts so that they're low profile, out of the way. Now, when you're trolling with the motor, you have to have a rudder in the water because this boat spins like crazy. And so a lot of people have suggested just putting the oars in the water, and that works phenomenal. It's like night and day difference of putting the oars in there. But when you turn, one oar will get pushed against the boat, the other oar on the other side will get, pops out away. So a good way to keep those in place, I just put some double-sided Velcro right here, put that on, and it locks it in so it stays there. And if you need to, quick access, you can take that off and use your oars for whatever reason. Now, the other thing that I've been doing is when I'm using the motor, I'm most likely trolling, right? And that's where these camera mounts, double clamps, photography clamps come into play. I put one right here, and I am then able, these will hold on to a rod holder. And you can crank this down, lock it in, and I've had some big fish cranking on this. I don't have it super tight, and that's why you see it wiggling still, but it holds on, and then it's right next to the seat, and I put one on the other side, and that way I've got my trolling rods right next to me, easy access, and you can adjust these wherever you want. A buddy of mine mounted some, oh, here's another one of those milk crates. I added some bungee to it so you can lock your stuff in. But anyways, he had mounted some rod holders here and hated it because they were like in his way. They were in the way of this. It was a mess. He swapped out for these and was then able to move wherever he wanted to get it to a good spot. He's gonna probably end up mounting some rod holders here. The nice thing about these clamps are they don't get in the way. They don't wrap all the way around the pipe, so that you are able to use it up against the air bladder. And over on this side, I use it on the other side of this rod holder. So it holds on, and I now have my trolling rod holders on each side. But these are the modifications I made. Hopefully you enjoy it. Give you some inspiration and have fun. Tight lines.